So I've had this channel for quite a while now, and in all the years and through all of the episodes that I've had on this channel, I can say without any doubt that the most requested place for me to visit is where I am right now. We are currently in the Netherlands, and over the next few episodes we're going to be talking a little bit about the 82nd Airborne in Operation Market Garden. All right, now like I said, we are currently in the Netherlands talking about Operation Market Garden, specifically in this series about the 82nd Airborne. And there's a reason for that, because we are here with Andrew Biggio of the Rifle, and with us is a veteran of the 82nd Airborne who actually fought here in September of 1944. And behind us is one of the key bridges at a place called Grave, that we're going to be talking about in a later episode. And I want to get one thing on the table right now. I get made fun of a lot about how I pronounce foreign words. Dutch, there is a 0% chance that I'm going to get it right. So I'm going to do my best. But with me to kind of help me out a little bit is my buddy Sander from Sandervk History.
So what is Operation Market Garden? Well, Operation Market Garden was the largest airborne operation in the history of mankind, and it still is. Operation Market Garden was split up into two sectors. You had Operation Market, the airborne landings, and you had Operation Garden, the ground forces. So the ground forces existed of 30th Corps with around 50,000 men and 22,000 vehicles, of which 6,000 vehicles were bridging equipment vehicles. And Operation Market were 3 airborne divisions and 1 airborne brigade, the Polish, that would land on strategic points close to the bridges that they needed to capture. Well, the Netherlands is comprised of a lot of rivers, and to cross those rivers you need to capture the bridges. And that was the main key point of this operation called Operation Market Garden. So why did they do this operation? Well, the initial plan was to bypass the Siegfried Line and go into the industrial heartland of Germany, the Ruhr Valley. But not only that, Montgomery wanted this plan to beat the Soviets to Berlin and be in Berlin by Christmas and defeat the Germans in that way. So Eisenhower eventually gave the green light to Montgomery to go through with this operation. And they only had 7 days to prepare for the largest airborne operation in history, which is pretty insane.
So here's what we've got going on for this video. We are going to be taking a look at the 3 different drop zones of the 82nd Airborne. Drop Zone O, Drop Zone N, and Drop Zone T. And later we're going to be linking up with Gene Metcalfe, who is a veteran of the 82nd Airborne, to kind of hear some of his stories about his experiences here in Operation Market Garden. first drop zone that we are starting off at today is Drop Zone O. And Drop Zone O is going to be where the 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment is going to be landing. So currently we are kind of in the southwest portion of Drop Zone O, and here alongside the road they have a monument to the men of the 504th who landed here on September 17th of 1944. Now in Drop Zone O, the main objective for these guys was going to be to capture some of the key bridges over the Maas River at Grave. I can't really pronounce it properly in Dutch. I don't have enough phlegm in my throat. But the Americans called it Grave. And they also had to capture some bridges over the Maaswal Canal that the British could later use as they were coming up their corridor. So there's kind of a funny story. There was a guy who landed right in here with Company F by the name of Philip Nadler. He was a private, and when his platoon leader uncovered the sand table for this area, he pointed to Grave, or Grave, and said, "Men, this is our destination." And he replied, "Yeah, we know that, but what country are we dropping into?" So anyway, you're going to have men from the 2nd Battalion, so that's companies D, E, and F, who are going to be dropping over here. So men from D and F are going to be dropping on the north side of the river, and men from E Company we're going to be dropping over on the south side of the river. We're going to be talking about that in a later episode. And then also you've got men from 3rd Battalion, so that's going to be G, H, and I companies that we're going to be landing, and then they're going to be moving north to secure a road from Nijmegen to Grave. And then 1st Battalion, companies A, B, and C, well, they were going to land, and then they're going to be moving off towards the canal to capture bridges in that direction. But anyway, this is Drop Zone O. All right, we have left Drop Zone O, and we have moved just kind of to the southeast of Groesbeek. I'm not saying that properly in Dutch, so that's the Americanized version of it. But we're now standing at Drop Zone N, and this is where the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment landed on September 17th. Like I said, this is Drop Zone N, where the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment landed. Some people may be familiar with Lieutenant Colonel Sandervk. He was with the 2nd Battalion of the 505th, so he's going to be, coming down in this drop zone. And the 505th, once they dropped down here, well, their objective was to take the town of Groesbeek and also the high ground between the town and the Maaswal Canal, which is where they would be linking up with the men from the 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment. They also were to establish some blocking positions against, on the east and southeast side, against the Reichswald, where they were expecting German attacks to come from. So they're going to be landing here at about 1:08 in the afternoon. And like I said, this is Drop Zone N right here. Well, just on the other side of this little rise here, so beyond those trees, is Landing Zone N, where following the paratroopers, you would have the glider infantry coming in. So right up here, honestly, we're just kind of right in the middle of this field. Well, they have this memorial at Drop Zone N in the form of this glider frame. And I don't know, this thing is actually kind of cool. So you can go up here and walk inside this frame, and they actually have some places where people can go and, I don't know, have a seat, maybe bring your favorite Operation Market Garden book to read, and yeah, just kind of sit here and soak in some of the history right here at Drop Zone Inn. Now, there was another well-known individual who dropped down here, and that would be the commander of the 82nd Airborne. So General Gavin is actually going to drop down right over here in this corner.
So General James Gavin, he landed here with the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment, and he landed around this area close to the forest ridge here. When he landed, he broke 2 vertebrae in his back, and he fell that, of course, and but still he was the general and he needed to command his troops. So when he landed, he also encountered, after landing, he encountered a machine gun positions from the Germans. So the Germans had him in his sight, but what did somebody do? This guy, Arie Dirk Bestebreutje, he was the Dutch liaison officer for Gavin and sort of the Dutch advisor here who could talk to the resistance, but he actually saved Gavin's life here in this area around the forest. And so when he landed, he assembled his troops. Well, they killed that machine gun position, and then they made their headquarters, the HQ from the 82nd Airborne Division, they put that back into the forest instead of usually what other generals did in like hotels or in fancy houses. But what Gavin wanted, he wanted to be outside in the forest and having his HQ there.
I've moved over close to the area where General Gavin landed, and here they've put up like this little information board, which is kind of nice. So right here in this photo, well, this is the dropping of the 307th Engineer Battalion, and right here is a photo of General Gavin communicating orders just a few minutes after landing at this area that they also called Klein America. Next to him is Colonel Al Ireland, who was the G1 of the division. Here's a photo of a German prisoner being interrogated. Here you can see this paratrooper looking at his sold book, and also kind of interesting there in the background, there's somebody from the Dutch commandos who was attached to the 82nd. You can see him there wearing a beret. There's another photo here of a farm at Klein America, and then another photo of an 82nd Airborne guy with a German soldier who has been taken prisoner. Yeah, this place is cool. Here's something that's just pretty darn interesting that I just learned about, and friend Joost just pointed it out to us. What we are looking at right here, close to the Wacko Glider Memorial, is a German practice bomb. So this thing is made all out of concrete, and you can see these little cavities right here. Well, those would have like glass vials or glass tubes in them that would have a certain type of liquid that when this was dropped from the sky, it would create a marker on the ground so that they could see, you know, if they hit their target. But apparently these were used quite a bit in the Netherlands, and now the Dutch people take them and use them as kind of yard decorations. Yeah, this is cool as heck. I want one. I've moved over now to the area of Landing Zone Inn, and right here at Landing Zone Inn, they have a memorial here, and part of the memorial is dedicated to the American paratroopers and glider infantry that landed here in September of 1944. And then they also have something else. Now, we're not going to get into this operation, but there was something called Operation Veritable that involved the Canadians that was kicked off from here in the winter of 44 and 45. All right, so if we just take a little bit of a walk over here. Well, I mentioned that part of what the 505th is doing in this landing zone is guarding against a potential German counterattack out of the Reichswald. Well, that is right over here. So back in the distance where you see those trees, well, that's Germany. So again, part of what the 505th is doing is they're landing over here and then trying to protect the eastern flank of the landing force over in this direction. Now, we've already talked about how General Gavin landed here in this drop zone on the 17th of September of 1944, but there was another high-ranking general who also landed here on the 17th, and that was the deputy commander of the 1st Allied Airborne Army, British general by the name of Frederick Browning. And his chief of staff, a guy by the name of Welsh, later said that when they landed here, well, Browning kind of like took off and just went by himself in the direction of Germany, was gone for a few minutes, and then came back. And Welsh asked him, like, what in the world were you doing? And Browning said that he wanted to be the first British officer to pee on German soil. About that time, there were some bombs that went off, and another high-ranking official who was right there with him dove in a ditch, and he looked down at him and he said, "Whatever are you doing in that ditch?" But yeah, that all happened right here in this area. We just dropped down into the town of Groesbeek, and right here they have a monument to General Gavin. So you can see this star right here that has the insignia of the 82nd Airborne on there, as well as this thing says mission accomplished, and then you can see like badges for the parachute infantry and also the glider infantry. And then if we go over here, it gives kind of like an overall history of the 82nd Airborne right here on this plaque, as well as this overall view of the area that the 82nd Airborne was in command of, or in charge of, or responsible for it, maybe I should say, during Operation Market Garden. Okay, so again, we started off over here in drop zone O. We've moved over here to drop zone N for the 505th Parachute Infantry, and we're getting ready to move right up here to drop zone T. All right, we have moved to the area that on September 17th was known as Drop Zone T. We got a little mist that seems to be starting up here. But Drop Zone T on the 17th of September for Operation Market Garden was where the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment would be landing. Their objective was to seize the high ground, set up roadblocks to the south and east of Nijmegen, and then move through the city and capture the bridges over the Wall River. And there are stories that I could tell here, but it might be better to hear it from a man who was actually here. We have with us today a veteran of the 82nd Airborne by the name of Gene Metcalfe, who landed right out here in the fields behind me.
So we're here commemorating what's the 81st anniversary of Operation Market Garden. And it's not typically a place that I have brought a lot of veterans to, but I saw this as a rare opportunity to bring from what we're gathering is most likely the last member of the 82nd Airborne to return to this sector, to the Operation Market Garden, which is a very heavily studied, very heavily commemorated airborne operation in the airborne community. And to be here with Gene, who participated in the jump, and for him to be the last one to return is very historic. You know, I just let him know that it was God's plan for him to be the last one to come back. So even though he spent all those months in a prisoner of war camp, maybe that was to preserve his life so he could be the last one to teach generations about this war.
Right there.
That's a cool regard.
But I think there, I was right over here. I was coming down here, and at that window there, is that a window up there?
Upstairs,
Under the gable? There was the Germans firing at us.
Ja, die waarschijnlijk wel, ja.
Yeah?
So-
You know that?
Ja, German did it.
Yeah, because we out here.
Yep.
And I watched him, he's leaning out the window firing at us coming down. But we landed right here, right along there.
Ja, hier zo.
Yeah, the whole area. Yeah. Then like I said, the Richwald was over here.
Yeah.
Of course, the one in the corner was all grass and.
You know, let's look at.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Gene, could you maybe?
I'm sorry.
Could you kind of tell me the story of what you remember?
Yes.
81 years ago today.
Okay.
Right
All right. It was Sunday afternoon, September 17th, and it was a beautiful Sunday afternoon, about 1:25, and we were in a formation of VFVs, and over there, they had about 3 ACAC emplacements guns there.
Flag.
And they, this here is a new addition. I asked him for, because I came down right out here, and there's the farmhouse. This farmhouse, there's a little pock marks.
Yeah.
Pock marks right there. Look at that. And they were, a German was firing from that window.
So he was in the.
I was coming down, and I looked off this way. It was right there. And he was firing at a sergeant in front of me, and he was firing back at him. Well, you can see there was a lot of.
Yeah, as you can see, they repaired, but not all of them. If you look very carefully, you can still see some bullet holes still in the wall. That's what I would want to show you.
That's what I'm saying. They're firing because they're firing at that German up there.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, from here.
And all this here. That's a Richwald Forest, right?
Yeah,
right over there.
Yeah.
I remember that they had tanks in that forest, Germans there, and we formed up our patrol. We came in. I think we came in right from that direction there.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
and like I said, we landed out in there. I landed right out in that about where. I'd say just about where that post was out, that stake, right in that area there, because I can remember this. And like I say, this wasn't there then. He said it's an addition, so this was just pinpointed where, you know, and we all dropped in here. My first sergeant dropped in here, and he came over. I was there cutting my chute up, and as I landed, and he came over to me and wanted me to go with him. He always carried a Thompson, and I said, I can't do it. You put me on point man in combat patrol. The rest of the patrol was back there, and they were forming up on me right out here. And then we went on into Nijmegen.
Yeah.
We went out through, there's a sunken road up there, and that's where we ran into a big Tiger 12.
Yeah.
And he was out prowling around, and the lieutenant asked for the bazooka man to knock him off, because he was on that sunken road. It was getting dark, and he didn't see us. And he walked right by us, and the bazooka man said he couldn't hit him because his rocket barrier left the rockets in the plane. He left the rockets in the plane. We had to let that tank go, of course. We didn't have any problem with that. But that tank was so close. It was sunken road was like this. Then the road here, and the tank was here. And that's a big, that tank was about that wide, the tracks and everything. And they came within about 1.5 foot of our boots. We were laying the berm there, and I could hear my heartbeat when that tank went by me, and the engine was in the rear. I could feel the heat from the engine in my face, but I could still hear my heartbeat, and I was so damn scared. And so then then of course we went on into town after I saw what this was going on, and the sergeant, he went over here. They had these gun emplacements, and he knocked out 2 gun emplacements right there. And one of my buddies, I found out years later, he found one of my buddies. Another guy started over there, and there's a road back in there, and they was crossing the road, and the gun emplacements are on this side of the road, and sergeant, they got to the road, and they crossed the road, and one of the guys got shot through the neck, and they couldn't get to him. He died there. And then that set off my first Sergeant Funk, who was later awarded the Congressional Medal. But Sergeant Funk landed right out here with
Leonard Funk.
But, he wiped out those gun emplacements, and the last 5 guys, the Germans raised their hands, and they just shot them down. It's just, well, where are you going to take them anyway? And they were running the Germans off the drop zone here as the gliders were coming in. The last German was run off. Our patrol had to come back from town to help take care of the Germans here. And they ran the last one off as the first glider landed. That's how close it was. Mm-hmm. But this place was full of chutes. I imagine you're still finding chutes out in there.
Yeah.
Parachutes, huh? You dig them out now and then? Parachutes? Mm-hmm.
Couple of days, I found this here.
Oh my God, 30 caliber. Where'd you find that?
Somewhere here.
Oh.
So you can keep it
Oh, what a memento.
as a memorabilia.
Oh, for God's sakes. Yeah, that's been on the ground a while. Look at that. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But this was, of course, it wasn't cultivated like it is today. It was all nice grass. It was hay, a hay field
Hooi
for the cows. There were cows. There were cows out in there. And this is 80 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. and there were chutes laying all over. There were camouflage chutes. And they'll never be used again because we cut them up, because they were camouflaged. Yeah. We cut off the shrouds. I was sitting there right out here where that post is, cutting off my shroud lines out of my chute, and then I cut about 4 panels out of my chute for camouflage, put them in our musette bag, and we used them. Every guy was doing this. And that's the first time we used camouflage chutes. I'm sure he's still fun. That's the first time we used nylon. Okay. Yeah, and they're good today as they were then 80 years ago. The ones he's finding today, as good as they were then. But this was we had the Yak was firing at us as we bailed out because we were right over them here, right at the side of the trees, and it was quite noisy. It was quite noisy. And, well, of course, they were all scared, but I couldn't get out of the plane fast enough because these guys were firing at us. And it was only about 800, 900 feet. We oscillate about 2 times and then hit the drop zone. But you could, the bullets like these, were coming up 20 millimeters, were coming up, and the flak was shooting us pretty bad. And there was a plane, we was going this way, and he headed right out for those trees. Went down behind it. Do you find it?
Yeah.
That was the plane I was in.
There's a monument made.
Yeah.
On behalf of that plane.
I bailed out and I looked back, and I could see all the skin hanging off the bottom of the wing. Whoa. And wires hanging down and just about 4 feet just flapping, and it was losing its altitude. And so I hit, and I looked over, and I could see him disappear behind the trees. That's the last one. That's amazing.
And that plane came.
I'm sorry.
That plane came down in Germany.
Yes, definitely.
And tomorrow in the evening there's a little
The pilot
ceremony.
survived?
No one survived.
They didn't survive. Yeah, because the crew was, of course, were so damn low.
Yeah.
And that plane was, I didn't see it crash because of the trees. It's just, I watched it because I was sitting there. Just, you know, and I think it wasn't smoking, but it just shot up oil or whatever. And I often wondered, I never knew to the day that it crashed and was killed. 80 years later, you're finding out stuff. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
That is amazing. It's worth a trip to me, you know, to meet this young man here and knowing his father was here.
Yeah.
And knowing that he had a German visitor.
Real quick, I want to take a closer look at this home. So again, this is an addition to the home, but this right here is the original structure that was here during Operation Market Garden. And all of these little splotch marks that you can see are pieces of bullet damage from the 17th of September when all these guys from the 82nd who were dropping in this area were shooting at the Germans that were staged up inside this home. Wanted to take just a quick moment to look at this field out here where Gene landed. Now, this is technically landing zone T. This is where the gliders were going to be landing following the parachute infantry, but this is obviously, as Gene mentioned, where he ended up landing. Now, they were going to be followed up by the 376 Parachute Field Artillery at 140. So the 508th landed about 120, 130. So basically, the engineers who landed here had about 17 minutes to clear the drop zone before these heavy equipment bundles were going to start falling out of the sky. So these guys were going to be quite busy while under fire. All right, well, there you go. That was a look at the drop zones of the 82nd Airborne during Operation Market Garden. We have some other places that we are going to be going over the next few days and looking at and seeing what we can learn about what happened here in September of 1944.